Founder recently asked me a question that I've never heard in my 15 years of running Vermilion. He essentially asked, why do I even need engineers anymore? Not offshore engineers, not cheaper engineers, engineers, period. And I understood the question. I understood it a bit too much. Anytime that I open up social media, I see a headline here saying, the death of all programmers. You have one more year to be a developer. When you look at all the AI tools that are coming out, you have Claude, you have Codex, you have Cursor, and Lovable. And this founder had already built a Lovable prototype slash MVP in a weekend. I mean, it wasn't very good, but he still built something. And that's where the psychology of software development is changing. It's essentially moving into the area in where anybody can build anything in a weekend. And if you asked me if this was possible a year ago, I would say no. Welcome to the Vermilion Podcast. Field notes about building software in the AI era. I'm your host, Ken. Here's the strange part. Founders and enterprise companies are asking themselves whether or not they need engineers anymore. And we have large companies like Facebook and Cisco and Coinbase laying off tens of thousands of engineers, essentially framing them as obsolete. At the same time, Anthropic and OpenAI, they are hiring engineers. They're hiring right now, actually. If you check Cursor or Anthropic or OpenAI, check their job boards right now. They need engineers and they are aggressively hiring. So what does that mean? Why the dichotomy? Why the paradox? It seems that the companies that are building the tools to replace engineers are still hiring software engineers. I think that the story that we're all seeing is a little bit incorrect. I wouldn't call it a lie, but I'd say that it's along the lines of we're not seeing the whole truth. So I don't think that AI just replaces engineers. I think that AI may replace bad engineers, and I think that AI might replace a certain type of engineering work, but it doesn't remove the human aspect entirely. I have a few theories. I do think that some engineering work is being replaced by AI. And I also think that some engineering work is now made even more valuable. That work is less valuable. And I'm talking about just implementation work, the commodity stuff, basic tickets, first passed screens, test code, mini apps, small programs that you normally wouldn't build that you can't build now. All of those like routine, small, quick 1 to 2 hour tasks, all of them are kind of small and all of them are being replaced. Now, if an engineer's entire scope of existence was doing these small, like tiny tasks, then yes, obviously they're going to be cut. Recently, I saw a post from somebody on X essentially saying that no, it wasn't on X, it was on Reddit, essentially saying that there was an entire team meant to manage unique unique IDs across a couple of microservices. Now, when I hear stuff like that, it sounds like a nightmare. If my entire job is just managing user IDs, obviously that can be taken over by an AI. And that's actually a good thing because a lot of it is grunt work, refactoring and making sure that certain parts of the code base that hasn't been touched or cutting out dead code, all of those things, they are important. And now we have the ability to do them. That also means that that's not a full-time job. The main point here is that it's not engineering is not about typing, and typing is not engineering. And what AI does is it allows us to pretty much type faster. To us and to great engineers, it's a typing service. So when all of those things get taken away by AI, what's left? And I would call that software engineering. When it comes to engineering, it's essentially choosing what should we build? What's the best use of the team's time? What's the best use of the product's time? What are the things in the backlog that we should prioritize? What are some of the things that we haven't done that we should have done, but because of the last sprint, we had to move things around? Um, what are the trade-offs? What makes sense? What are the new tools that are out there that we can use specifically for our use case? How can we have a better developer experience across the organization? All of these things make a company better. They make it easier to manage a code base. And that's probably why Anthropic and OpenAI and Cursor and Lovable and all these other AI companies are bringing on engineers because they understand that the more people that they have, it's a multiplier. It's essentially going to make their company way more valuable. You take a pretty good engineer, roast some AI on it, and now you have an excellent engineer that can do a bunch of work. So, no, AI is not going to be replacing engineers completely. We're probably never going to have these autonomous, fully built out workflows because the real world is messy. It's not deterministic. Customers will come into your product or app and do something that you never thought. A random person will come up with a viral TikTok, and that will inspire people to build a new type of application that you never knew existed or never even knew that people wanted, and now you have to implement it into your product. There are things that real engineering brings to the table that an AI coding assistant cannot. And so that's what I think is really happening at the bottom of all of this. It's that some people are seeing some people have some companies and organizations have a larger understanding and imagination really of what could happen whereas there are others who are looking at their record profits and saying, yeah, we should get rid of these people who've helped us get this far. Now, let me show you something that AI absolutely can't do. And it actually happened to one of our clients a few years ago. Uh, I remember it like it was just yesterday. I was, it was around 7 p.m. I stayed back at the office a little bit late and I started getting a couple of emails from Twilio. And I was thinking, like, why is Twilio emailing us? I opened up the app, checked to make sure that the SMS was working in the live application. And I was like, okay, well, everything seems to be working. And I was just getting ready, packing up my bag and making my exit. Everybody had already left, so I was the last one. I had to lock up and do everything. Then I started getting a few more emails back to back, and I saw an email saying, "Hey, you're past you've hit your limit. Yeah, we set up a limit to make sure that when we hit a certain amount of SMS messages, we'll do a little bit of reloading, and it reloaded 3-4 times in a row. And I was wondering, like, hey, why is this happening? Like, why? Like, is the app blowing up? And that wasn't the case. So I placed my laptop back at my desk and I began to kind of go in and look at the logs and see what's going on. All the systems are running normally. And then I happened to say, hey, let me just log into Twilio and see what's going on. And then That's when I realized that we didn't reload 3 or 4 times. We have been reloading about for the past hour. Now, what happened was one of our one of the clients' emails were compromised. So there was so one of their emails were compromised, and because that happened, somebody was able to use social engineering to get into their email, get into their Twilio account, and they used that to then run I guess, a text message scam in Turkey. So while this is happening, I'm freaking out. I'm trying to see like, hey, which key is it? Because we have multiple keys and we kind of want to make sure that it's fine. We shut down the key. We I then go into Twilio. I remove the card so that my client doesn't get charged because I see that we're already past $1,000 and it's in the past hour. And if we don't do something now, or if we don't have some type of circuit breaker, it's gonna get to $10,000. So we would get to $10,000, by the end of the night. So we're in there, we're going in, we're I've isolated where this scammer or scammers, it was actually a couple of them. They actually went to the Twilio account, created a couple of keys. Then they were just using this. And I still don't necessarily understand what the scam was. I knew that they were able to send out text messages and somehow they were able to make money off of that. Whatever it is, we caught it. We isolated the issue. We then took the time to then save our client money because money over there, that's money lost. We did not want them to lose money. Then I contacted Twilio, sat on the phone with them, telling them what happened. They kind of helped us out. They were like, well, you should do this and you should do that. And I was like, yeah, I have no idea. Well, I was like, one, I have no idea, how they were able to get these keys. We did a full security audit on the back end. I called in some of the other team members to see if any of our keys were leaked anywhere. Nothing was leaked. We were able to then go into the logs and like a bunch of stuff happened, and the AI can't do that. That's long story short, or short story, a couple of minutes now. What ended up happening was we spoke to Tulio. We got a refund on the pending charges. We put in hardening. We then, after all this was solved, we wrote up an incident report. We sent it to our client. We essentially told them, hey, I called them at 9 or 10 p.m. and essentially said, hey, here's what happened. Here's how we fixed it. It's solved. We had to turn off SMS authentication. So we pushed out a new update. So people are able to authenticate themselves without SMS for right now. Twilio is going to try to charge you $3,000. They're not going to be able to charge you $3,000 because we removed the card. We already renegotiated with Twilio to make sure that they know that this is a fraudulent charge. So everything is fine. All the keys are switched. Everything is good to go. Then we said, hey, the organization needs to adopt a password security protocol to make sure that we're not running into a situation like this ever again. And everybody gets two-factor authentication, all the stuff, from so on and so forth. So things like this specific scenario, if you typed into ChatGPT or typed into anything like, hey, this is what's going on, help, it might have kind of pointed you in the right direction. But that deep engineering experience, and kind of like the savviness of kind of knowing what to do and how to deal with third-party vendors, that's not in the training data at all. One of the biggest things here is accountability. AI cannot be accountable for bad code. It says it at the bottom. Claude can make mistakes. Be careful. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Always check your work. When it comes to that accountability layer, only a human can be accountable, i.e., the software engineer or us. So that ends up being incredibly important, especially when things go wrong, and also important when things go right. Now, going back to the beginning of this, I did mention somebody who did build a lovable MVP. And I may or may not have laughed at that. And it's not to make fun of them. I actually think that it's amazing that people can go in, have something that's really, really close to what they wanted to build, and be able to test it out, use it. And it's an exhilarating experience. The things that design and engineering teams have been doing for a while and actually seeing it come to fruition and seeing it on their phone or seeing it on their website, all of those things are an exciting feat. Or it's an exciting feature, but it's also an exciting feeling. The It helps clarify ideas and it helps get to a concrete business idea. But building a prototype is not the same as running a software business. Running a software business involves dealing with payment processing. It requires dealing with Stripe updates, policy changes, similar to the Apple and Google Play Epic lawsuit. There are software package updates that can break things that usually work. And when they break things, the training data behind that does not get updated. You have to figure it out or hope somebody else has figured it out. You have to go to Stack Overflow. You have to have a good understanding of the underlying layer of whatever that you're building to then work around that. It gets difficult. Customers are going to want new features. You're going to have to implement them and make sure that those new features that you've implemented don't break previous working features, because then you're going to spiral in a way in where it's you put out this fire, you put out another fire, and you're just a firefighter. You never want to be a software firefighter. That makes life really tough. So those kind of things of managing the entire engineering process, doing testing, doing happy path testing, and also doing like I'm gonna try and click and break everything testing. All of those things are part of it. When you type into Claude or you type into Lovable, hey, build this thing for me, it is going to build it with the most efficient token usage possible. And yes, you could use skills and you could use this and you could use that, but there are things from a ground level perspective that you might miss. And when that happens, you'll need a software engineer. Because when we look at it on the flip side, when you look at all of these tools, it would make absolute sense to cut or drop, maybe a 20K employee for what are they selling it at right now? $20 or $100 or $200 a month for an automated employee or an AI LLM. But it's more complicated than that. It's more, I believe that the market is being flooded with a lot of bad framing, and that framing plus the layoffs plus, all the marketing language is it is crushing implementation. Yeah. When it comes to implementation, it is much cheaper, and that's actually not a bad thing. But it's leaving out the story of the judgment layer, the strategy layer, the choosing the right stack, the all of those little micro decisions. And even when you are using those coding models, you still need to make micro decisions based off of good architecture, based off of, there have been plenty of times when we've seen, we've asked for something simple and then it warbles or it thinks or it just takes a long time and it goes in the complete wrong direction. Now, if an engineer didn't know how to code or if an engineer didn't really understand the system, They would say, yeah, keep going in that direction. But I would say about maybe 40% of the time, it goes into the wrong direction and it seems that it's going in the right direction. But when that judgment layer appears, an engineer can essentially say, hey, no, don't do this. This might be the most efficient thing for you to do. Do this. This is better. And that all those micro decisions compound over time, essentially getting you a better code base and ultimately a better product. So that's the idea that I want to put out on the table for this episode. AI is changing software. No serious person would deny that, or should they deny it? It's making software easier to generate. You can easily make a prototype. You can easily make a quick weekend idea. But the thing that it's not changing is it's not making it easier to own software. And that's where I think that the next chapter is. Now, moving forward, we're not going to pretend that AI doesn't matter. It does. But we're also not going to pretend that software engineering or software engineers are going away. They aren't. But what we are going to start to understand is what becomes more valuable when code gets less cheaper. Well, more cheaper. And I think that's judgment, accountability, stability, the quality of your product, not looking like your app was just another AI generated app. Trust me, it does turn people off now. And I only predict that that's going to get worse and worse or better and better. And that's what we're going to talk about on the Vermilion podcast. We're going to talk about how software changes in the AI era. What changes, what stays the same, and the things that break in the middle of the night. I'm Ken, your host, and I'll see you in the next one.